Hello, this is Calvin LeDuc. I'm head of faculty and one of the 3D character animation instructors at the Vancouver Animation School, also known as Van S. Today I'll be demoing how to do a better walk cycle. I'll be using the Dana rig, and let's get started. I'm using more than the standard or usual 24 frames that a lot of walk cycles are done because I want this to be more advanced and have more frames to work with. So I'm starting on frame 0 and I'm going up to frame 36. It'll be a treadmill walk cycle, so it'll be a repeating cycle. I'm going to go check my preferences down here at the bottom right. I just want to check that they're what I want. Under settings animation, I recommend for students to use the default in and out tangents set to linear, which is a straight line. And then under time slider, I want my frame rate to be the traditional feature film rate of 24 frames per second, and change that playback to 24 frames per second times 1. Then I can click on save. Start with the side view, so I'm just holding the spacebar down and in the hotbox clicking on Maya and going over to right view. The most important part of any motion with a bipedal character is the hip motion. Okay, that's where you start. So I'm going to start with a stride pose. That's where your one leg's in front, one leg's in the back. And I'll select the largest hip controller right there. It's called the root on this character. And I want to bring the hips down, because when your legs are spread far apart, that causes your hips to lower. I want to create a nice angle here. I want to exaggerate the up and down motion that occurs on the hips. This is animation. And I'm just keying my translations and rotations. So I'll use Shift W and Shift E on the first frame, which is starting on frame 0, and then go over to the last frame. First and last will always be the same, so rekey it. Shift W, Shift E. I mean, if you're just going to be lazy, you can hit S and key everything, and then you have a lot more to work with later. I also have a opposite stride, where instead of the right leg being forward, it'll be the left leg being forward. So that'll be the same down position. Go halfway between 0 and 36, and that's frame 18. Click there, rekey the translations and the rotations. Now, the other major key in a walk cycle is the passing pose, and that's where you're standing on one leg. That leg will be straight, and your other leg is coming up into the air. So halfway between 0 and 18 on frame 9, I'm going to pull my hips up, but I don't want them to be perfectly straight, almost straight, because I'll be doing things later that'll make the leg straighter. Rekey it, translate, rotate, and also halfway between 18 and 36, and that's going to be 27, frame 27. So right, it's in the down position right now. I want to use the same up position as frame 9, so I can just middle drag that, or I can middle button on my mouse, key it. Just click on 27, and then Shift W, Shift E, and key those. And you're going to see the down. I'm just scrubbing through with my left mouse button on the timeline. I have down to up, up to down, up again, and down. Right? You have the VCR controller here on the right. You want to check that. You want to look at it here in your graph editor. And there's my up and down with the translation Y. Y is always green in Maya. Now I want to smoothen this out. So I'm going to select, marquee select the curve. That'll select all my keys. I'll click on flatten the tangents. And you can see that gives me a smooth slow in and slow out on that action. But that is extremely simplified. I'm creating a more advanced walk, a better walk. So let's insert some breakdowns that we'll use. And these breakdowns will favor the upper key because we have gravity and we want to slow down as we approach the high position. So in order to insert, I can have two options. Hold down the I key on my keyboard, and then I can left click, and I'm probably going to pick 1, 2, 3 frames before and 3 frames after. The other option is to go over to this key on your graph editor and click on this tool here, the insert key tool. And that allows you to do the same operation. Okay, so 1, 2, 3 after. And I'll do the same for both of the extreme high keys. Now I hit enter to get out of that tool. And I just have these extra breakdown keys, but it's not doing anything at the moment. It's same position. I'll go select these keys by marquee grabbing them. Marquee drag. Then I will change the tangent handle to be auto tangents. And this will adjust those handles automatically as I select them. Turn on a move tool. Hold down shift and middle mouse drag up. And you'll see those handles adjusting themselves. We want to be closer to the high position. I want to see a noticeable change in that timing. So it's slower at the top and faster as it comes down. Okay. Let's save. I've already created the project. If you want to know how to create a project, you can go and check on our school site. Let's see if I have a copy of the school site up here. Go to vanast.ca, go to the bottom, and click on events, and then you can go and find some of the previous things I've shown, such as how to animate a good eye blink. And that'll show you how to set up your project in Maya. Maya is the world standard for 3D animation. It's a great software to learn as a student because it's used by about 90% of the industry in the world, and it's free for a student, a school, and teachers. So in order to save into my project, I'm going to go to File, up the top left, down to Save As. I'll bring this in, and I'm just going to call this the Dana Walk. Always number your scene files, so I'm going to call that version 1. Save. Next, I'm going to start to rotate the character's hips. The rotation on the hips can be done after you move the feet or before. I'm just going to set it now. Go to my first key here. Turn on the rotation tool, which is E for the shortcut. You can also go over to your toolbox here on the left and click on rotation. I know I'm going to be moving the left leg forward first, so let's do a left hip forward rotation. I'll just kind of round that out here in my channel box on the right. Left click on it and tell it to key. So first and last are the same. I can middle mouse drag from 0 over to 36. Key that. And the value I'm coming up with, you come up with your own value. It's your walk you're going to be creating. You don't want to just learn a formula. Halfway is going to be the opposite rotation. So instead of negative value, I'm going to put in the exact same value but as a positive. And go ahead and key that. Click on play. Looking good. Right now, when I look at the graph editor with that rotation in the Y value, it's linear, and that's a very abrupt change of direction. So I want to smooth that out. The mistake students make is they'll select every key and then they'll just flatten every key. And you don't want to slow down in the middle of the action between the extremes from end to end. Right? Like, let's look at this as a cycle. Go under View, tell it to show infinity, and then under Curves. For post-infinity, that's after 0, select Cycle. And you can see it's kind of a wonky curve that it's giving you. You can either select these keys in the middle with a tool turned on, translation or rotation, and you can lift up that handle. But that's time consuming. I find it's easier to just pick these two middle keys and hit delete. And that'll give me a smooth, slow in for my rotations on the hips. Every time you do something major, save. At least save every 20 to 30 minutes when you're doing animation, and save as a new version. So I'm just going to go up to File and say Save Scene As, and give it a new number, version 2. Now I can get in here, select my first frame, and start moving the feet on my character. I'm going to select the left foot. I'm going to hit F, and I'm going to scroll back to kind of frame it up. You really only have to be seeing between the hips and the feet when you're starting a walk. I want to translate this forward. This is my forward stride position, and I want the calf to be, kind of perpendicular, vertical, up and down. At least at a minimum, put it the length of your foot. That's why I like to see nice big feet on characters. Again, I'm going to key the translations and the rotations. First and last, the same. That's just use that as a mantra. Keep repeating to yourself. First and last, the same. You need to do that for a cycle. Halfway, frame 18, that's going to be the back position for this left foot. So take that and push it back here, and again, it can be about the equal distance it went forward for the back. Key the translations and the rotations. Check it out by hitting play. Always view what you're creating in animation. That's called the sliding or the skating action when creating a walk cycle. This is why I set my tangents to linear. This sliding back action is actually that foot when it's just on the ground and you're standing on it and it's not moving. Later, if you decide to push this walk forward, that foot won't move. Once it gets to the back position, this animation you're creating, because it's traveling in the Z or Z axis forward, that'll be the foot that comes up into the air as it comes forward. Now I grab the opposite foot, that's a character's right leg, and I want to match move these positions. So I'm going to pull it forward, make sure the control curve is in the same position, but I don't want to keep both feet in the same frame. So I'm going to put this over on 18. Just remember to middle mouse drag that over to 18. Now you can key it. Translation and rotations are being keyed. When you scrub through, you can see, oh, yeah, there's the front key for that foot. So it's on 18. Let's take that foot now, because we're in the back position here for the left foot. Slide it back there. And then move it off of 18 and middle mouse drag it over to 0. Key it, translate, rotate, and first and last are the same. Drag 0 over to 36. Key it. Always have to key your positions in order to save them. And that's my skating action. Have a new action to save. File. Save scene as. Give it a new number. And hit save as. Now what I want to do is create my passing position. I'm selecting my right leg, and as I go through on my time slider, scrolling through, or scrubbing I should say, you get halfway, that'd be frame 9. That's the up position for that foot that was moving forward. Lift it up. I tend to exaggerate how high it goes, and I pull it forward to see it better, and I rotate that foot down, because this is a broken ankle if it doesn't bend. Key the translations and rotations, and just check if it's doing what you want. Up, down, up, down. Okay. So I want to also create my passing position for the other leg. I'm going to select the left leg, and it's going to occur halfway between frame 18, because this is where it's coming forward, and 36. So that's going to be keyed here on 27. So I know where I want to key it, which frame. Go back to the other passing, which is here on frame 9. Translate that foot up. Now, to make a better walk, don't just copy the exact same position, because that's mechanical, that's robotic, and we're not machines. You can rotate it more, you can have it a little further up or down or forward or back. And I don't want them both up in the air for 9, so middle mouse drag from 9 over to frame 27 and key it. Play it. All right. Don't forget to save. Now the next major key is the heel contact. My system, I didn't create it. It was actually created by a very famous Disney animator called Grim Natwick, who, did Snow White on Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. This is the extreme down position, right, for the hips, causing that leg to bend. What's missing is the heel contact. So as this foot comes up to the passing, and then it comes down here, we need the heel to contact the ground first. We just don't land perfectly flat with our foot. So on average, it's usually a couple frames before. For the advanced walk, you can use 3, 4. Let's just try 3 here. I'm going to drag from 18, middle mouse drag back to 15. This makes it easier. Everything stays where it is, and I can pull this foot forward. You make it almost straight. It doesn't have to be 100% straight. And rotate that heel. Lift that up nice amount, nice and big. Key the translation rotation. Scrub through because it's actually going to have a different hip rotation. So you see how the foot's being pulled out of the control. Go back in. Put the foot on the ground. Well, and let's just push it back as well. And then I'll put the foot back in the controller. Pull it down. Just keep working it till that foot is actually... It should always be in the controller. It shouldn't be hyperextended and being pulled out of that control curve. Once it's back in the right position, rekey it. Scrub through again. Coming up. Heel contact and down. Hit play. I always like exaggerating this rotation. You can see the action really clearly, and you can rekey over as often as you want. I like to see it go from bent to flat. So let's key this position, right? That position, the heel contact for the other foot. It's going to be appearing for the other foot 3 frames before this front position on frame 36. So that is going to be frame 33. Let's go back. Position the right leg, frame 15, and move this foot that I've selected, the left foot, over here. You're worrying about the control, not the mesh. Just line it up, and then middle drag from 15 over to 33. Key the translations and rotations. Hit play. Make sure it's actually doing the action you want it to do. And you can see these hips are working in conjunction with this leg motion, right? The leg is forward, the hips forward. Very important that the direction is maintained. Go up, save as, create a new version. You create a new version because if you make a mistake, you can always go back to where the mistake doesn't exist. All right. Now we can go to a front view and start to fix up our walk as well. The way we're going to be watching this walk, I'm holding down the space bar, left clicking on Maya and going to perspective, is through a perspective camera, right? We should create a new camera and call it our scene camera. Let's do that. Create. Go down to cameras, select camera, rename it here in the channel box on the far right. Scene camera, hit enter. And we're not looking through the scene camera yet, so I can go under panels and tell it to look through selected. Because I'm picking or selecting my scene camera at the moment, I'm going to see the view that the scene camera sees. So there's my scene camera. It says it down here at the bottom of my panel. I'm just going to hit A. A shows all, everything that's in your scene. And just go set that at the angle. You want it to be, you know, either somewhere between hip and head height. You don't really want to be looking up at it or looking down at it. And this is, you know, to put on a demo reel. People can see a 3/4 view. It shows the up and down, the side to side, and the back and forth axes. So you get that set to the angle you like for your camera. You can go either to the first frame and hit S, and that'll key everything. And then no matter where you move your camera, when you click on the timeline, it pops back to that keyed scene camera. You could also select all these attributes for the camera, and you can right click and tell it to lock that selection, and that'll gray it out, and now you can't move that camera. So it's always going to be this view when you want to see what your scene camera is going to be. You know, your final scene will be shot from that angle. I'm changing back to my perspective camera now. And actually I'm going to be working with the front view, so go select my front view, hit A. Let's get up here and look at what's happening with my feet. So women tend to cross over, where men tend that their heels will touch the center line of origin here. Women tend to cross over that line. I'm going to pick one of the feet controls, and I'm getting into my graph editor, and I'm looking at this X translations are my side to side. I don't want to do it, you know, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 keys. I don't want to do it individually, moving the keys. I want to move them all at the same time. So marquee select the tangent curves, select them all, and I'm going to make the values bigger here. So I'm going to hold down Shift plus Alt and middle mouse drag down to increase these values, just so things will move faster. Holding Shift to lock it, because I'm just going straight up and down. I'll move it to see what direction, and apparently it's going to be down, so I'm going to pull this foot over. The other thing I want to do with this character's left foot is rotate the Y. So again, I'll make the values bigger, and then select all the keys and rotate. And I exaggerate this rotation. You're going to see the benefit of it when I go to a perspective view. You want to be able to see this foot rotated out to cover more surface space. It's organic, right? It looks more natural. People don't point their feet perfectly straight forward. Go back to a front view. Pick the other foot. And I'm going to translate that as well to create more overlap. So translate X, pick all my keys, increase the values. Push that foot in. You know, if you go number 4 for wireframe, you can see, you know, how much it's overlapping now. And number 5, we'll bring it back to shaded mode. I usually scrub through until the foot's on the ground before doing my rotation in Y. Pick rotate Y. Increase the values again, make it easier. And I don't duplicate one side to the other for the rotations in Y. Again, we're not machines, so just eyeball it. And always test your animation. Always look at it. Make it move. Okay, so there's my overlapping position. There's my rotation. Go ahead and save it. New version. The thing I want to do next is stop the character from kicking. You know, the foot's going through the other leg. What you have to do here is when you get to your passing, you want to push that foot out to the side. You determine how far you want to be pushing that. And it's just moving in translation X, so I'll key just that one axis, frame 9. And you can see it swinging out and coming down. You'll want at some point to get in there and flatten that out right here. When you're at the passing, you want to smooth, slow in and slow out for that side-to-side action. Once you have it done for one foot, pick the other leg, go to the passing position, pull that out to the side, set your key on the translation X, get in there, flatten it out, and let's save that side-to-side passing position. New version. When the foot touches the ground here, we actually want it to have a better angle on that foot. Rotate it in Z, you know, make it perpendicular to this leg angle. It's always the outside heel that's wearing out on your shoes, right? And you want to be able to see under that foot. So just in translate Z, or actually rotation in Z, let's set one key. And that's going to be dun, 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 and then down. Same with the other leg. When it contacts the ground, right here, just in the Z rotation, right, we can see the axes right here. Rotate that in, go over to your channel box, set a key. Now we can see underneath the foot there. And I'm just going to hit save. Save that action. Coming around to the front camera. What happens here, we're in the stride pose, right? And our hips are flat. When we get to the other stride, our hips are flat. But when you're here, halfway, this leg is straight and this leg is bent. And there's nothing supporting this leg. So on our hips, turn on our rotations, with nothing supporting this leg, the hip drops down a little. So set a key and rotate Z or Z. And then when you're on your other passing pose, rotate that in the opposite direction, right? Get the negative value. And you can again open up this graph editor and you can see your rotation in Z. Very careful when you're cleaning this up. Most students will mess it up by just flattening everything, and that's not what you want, right? It just does not look good when you create a cycle. Okay, you need to put the handle up here onto the curve. Always, get these handles onto the curve to create a smooth action. And whenever you're manipulating something in your graph editor, remember to have a rotation or translation turned on. And that's going to give you a nice cycle that's going to smoothly, do your rotations. Now the other thing we need to add, well, let's key this first. New version. Is the character to be balanced. And in all animation, or should I say almost all animation, your character has to be balanced. I'm selecting the hips and turning on my translation tool. When I'm standing on 2 feet, I am balanced over those 2 feet. When I'm standing on one leg, this passing pose, there's nothing over here supporting the character. And so the character would fall because of this action. What has to happen is you have to move your character over the leg it's standing on. So select the hips, pull the character over here, and round that up, key the translation in X. Gets back to the stride pose, 2 feet on the ground. I'm standing in the middle here, and when I get to the passing, push the character's body over the foot that it's standing on. And that's going to be the negative inverse. Hit play. And it's very abrupt at the moment, right? And that's why I like to get in here and do a bit of polishing on the handles. Just doing the top and bottom, the extremes, will get you quite far. Maybe 80%. But it will look better if you actually manually get in there and adjust the first one, and the middle one, and the last one, right? Right, better. And go look at it as a perspective view. And don't forget, we actually have under perspective here our scene cam. All right, save scene as, new file, new name. And this is how I usually start a basic walk. And from this point on, I will be manipulating this walk cycle to push it into being a better advanced walk cycle. Now I need to add some animation to the character's heels. When you're in the stride pose and you're in the extreme down position, when the leg is here at about a 45-degree angle, you can't leave the back heel flat on the ground. It has to raise up. So I select the foot control and I look for the attribute that'll actually manipulate that heel to raise it. I think it's called roll for this rig. And I'm just increasing the value. I kind of want it up here at a nice angle, and I don't want the thigh to go any further forward than this perpendicular, horizontal. That's not horizontal, vertical angle. So I'll set a key on the first frame. First and last the same. And I don't want to leave it up all the time, because that's what's going to happen at the moment, right? It looks like they're wearing heels or something. When I get up here to the passing, that's when I can zero this roll out, put that heel back into the controller, and I can key it to be flat back here, because if I only set this flat here, it's going to increase the whole time, and you're going to get to your passing and you're standing on one toe, and that's not how people walk, right? So I need to key it flat again, and usually I'm going to select something like about 4 frames before this back position. So over here on frames 32, zero that out again. And then as this leg is coming down, the heel will come up. So let's see what value we were using, and I'm going to copy that to the other side. First frame, key it flat, back. Let's increase that, lift it up. You can actually type in the value, key it, 4 frames before, zero that out. Don't forget to key it. Zero it out at the passing. And first and last the same. Always set a key on that last frame. It's a treadmill cycle, and you must always key the first and last the same. You should be able to click between the two, and there should be no changes happening. Don't forget to save. New version. I want to thank everybody for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you on the next webinar.